often my work with couples centers around affair recovery. And there's a pattern that I have seen emerge that can build around broken trust. Now, I see this pattern emerge around other types of trust issues as well, say somebody's hidden money or lying or being secretive, things such as that. There's other ways to break trust. But absolutely, I see this pattern, and perhaps it's even most potent around emotional and or physical affairs in our closest relationship. Essentially, this pattern involves two obstacles or roles that the partners can fall into. The first role is that of a detective or a police officer. The other is a performance-based role where the partner is constantly feeling graded on their behavior, but never really earning the trust back. In this episode, we're going to talk about both of these roles, how to break the cycle that they can cause, and how to remove these obstacles so that true trust can be rebuilt for both partners. Welcome to Trauma-Free Relationship. I'm Tom Philp, your host, and as a therapist, I spent over 10,000 hours helping couples work through their trauma so they can repair ruptures, heal their wounds, and communicate from a place of wholeness and connection. Let's get started. Okay, as I mentioned in the opening, a lot of my work with couples centers around affair recovery. Oftentimes, this might be the trauma that has been created in the current relationship. This could obviously compound any kind of trauma or trust issues that either one or both of the partners brought into the relationship. So there's that layer that has to be dealt with as well sometimes. But certainly, even if they didn't have prior trauma, that this can create a trauma. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think all affairs create trauma. I have treated many couples that trauma was not a part of the treatment. Rebuilding trust was, absolutely, finding a way forward, dissecting what was happening in the relationship prior to the affair, so on and so forth. A lot of other components are still part of the treatment process, but trauma treatment wasn't necessarily one of them because the offended partner didn't get traumatized by it. Deeply hurt, yes, but traumatized, not always. So not all affairs cause trauma. Certainly some do, without question. So I just kind of want to put that disclaimer out there. But as I mentioned in the opening, what I see emerge are two big obstacles in affair recovery that center around rebuilding trust after the affair. And these center on two different roles that the partners find themselves in. So the first role is the detective or policing role. Now, this is usually assumed by the offending partner, the one that got cheated on, and they can fall into this role because they were either lied to or deceived and had to discover the affair. Rarely do I see it, although it can still certainly happen, if somehow the offender, the one that had the affair, comes to the partner and reveals that this has happened. Now, there's a deep wound that's caused, there's deep hurt, but I don't see them in the long term slipping into a policing role simply because they were told about the affair and then they felt like their partner was as open and transparent as possible in piecing all of the puzzle together about what led up to it, where it happened, why, who, so on and so forth. And so they don't often fall into that role as much. If they discover the affair or if it trickles out over time, then what often happens is one of the partners, the one that got cheated on, actually falls into this role where they now have to feel like they're a detective and they have to police their partner. This can be an exhausting role to fall into, and it can be an exhausting way to be in the relationship. The other role is the person that had the affair, the offender, oftentimes falls into what I would call a performance-based relationship. They're on their best behavior, and they're trying to do everything they can to rebuild trust. The problem is if the other partner gets triggered frequently or continues to bring up the affair, then over time they can get discouraged and begin to think that they will never get, quote unquote, out of the doghouse, so to speak. And they can begin to lose hope that they will ever be able to earn their partner's trust back. So oftentimes what I see is the old role, or the role that the offender falls into, the partner that had the affair, is that I'm always going to be now one down in this relationship. I'm always going to be trying to make up for it. I'll never be able to have my own feelings. I'll never be able to be right in an argument again. I'll never be able to express myself and what I need, because his or her needs are going to dominate way more than mine. So they fall into this, well, I've just got to be on my best behavior, and I've got to try to earn back that trust, which is partially true. They do have to earn back that trust, without question. But over time, if the other partner continues to bring it up and continues, all conversations lead right back to the affair, then that can wear down the patience of the other partner that had the affair, and they can begin to have sort of a defeatist mindset, like, I'm never going to get over this. I'm never going to get out of the doghouse or be able to give my partner what they need ever again. And so they start to then even question whether they should stay in the relationship. So these are two big obstacles that I see. Now, as you can imagine, this can create a cycle. And what we know about cycles is they are a pattern that can come to dominate the relationship. This pattern can come to dominate the interactions, and it can be unconscious in the way it unfolds. So it doesn't always have to be that the partners are talking about the affair. It could be they're talking about something else, but the feelings for both come up, so it can be a trigger of the same feelings of the affair. Or visuals, right? We can have kind of flashbacks. We've talked about that in another episode, how to handle and manage flashbacks. There's emotional flashbacks. There's visual flashbacks. And so a flashback could occur that could trigger one or more individuals. So it's like the affair's always there in the background. It's never receded enough that the couple can even have a rupture around something where the road doesn't lead right back to the affair. And so this can create a really difficult cycle for the couple, where the offended partner becomes a detective and tries to catch the other partner in more lies and more deceit. So they're always on guard. They're always looking for what their partner might be doing wrong. They're reading into every single text. They're looking at Live 360 to know where they are, their movements all day long. And the other partner will begin to feel they will never earn back the trust, and that they have to be on their best behavior, only to feel like they are being graded with every move and being watched. And oftentimes I'll see a pattern where they will then be accused, the partner that had the affair, by the other partner over accusations that are completely unfounded. But because the partner that got cheated on, the one that was hurt and offended by the affair, they then feel like, again, that policing role really takes over. And so they start reading things into it for good reason. I understand their brain is on high alert. What they found out, what they learned, shifted their entire worldview. The relationship they thought they had has now been completely inverted and turned inside out. And so their brain is saying, this doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Pieces of the puzzle don't fit. Patterns don't line up. I'm going to figure out exactly what happened that caused me such pain, so this never happens again. So I really understand where they're coming from. But they will often then accuse their partner of behaviors or motivations or even feelings that they don't have. And so you can see how this can spiral out of control in the recovery period for couples when they fall into these roles. So I want to talk a little bit about now, okay, what do we do about this? How does the couple break the cycle? And how do they try to work their way out of these roles so they can truly learn how to try to build trust with one another and build back trust? So let's break this down. Let's talk about the detective or the policing role first. Again, I want to say I really understand where this individual is coming from. I understand why it hurts so bad, and I understand why their brain is trying to make sure that they never feel that kind of pain and disorientation and a complete turning upside down of their world. It makes perfect sense to me, and it is normal under that kind of emotional duress when they find out their partner has had an affair. So, but what they have to begin to do is work their way out of being a detective or trying to police their partner. So here's some considerations for that. First of all, it's perfectly normal to fall into this role, as I've said many times. So being able to recognize, oh, I'm looking at where my partner is 8 times a day to see if they're actually where they are. Okay, recognize what's happening, recognize where that's coming from, and start backing yourself off. Maybe take Live 360 off your phone so you're not looking at where your partner is all day long. Now, when I say things like that to partners, I get this look like, like the old cartoon, the Looney Tunes back in the 70s where their eyes would like bug out of their head. That's the look I often see from people when I say, well, why don't you delete that off your phone? Are you kidding? If I do that, then I'll get cheated on again. But that's the whole point. As long as you continue to look at that, it will keep your nervous system heightened at high alert. It never gets to come down. And I recognize to some degree it's always there in the back of your mind. Sometimes distraction is the best coping mechanism for dealing with such an emotional hurt as an extramarital affair can cause. So I understand that. But if you don't try to back away from these things that are constantly triggering you, then you're not ever going to be able to create enough space inside you to let those behaviors that he or she is doing to try to earn back trust in. And that's one of the second things, is you have to learn how to try to take in, internalize the good things that your partner is doing to build back trust. Do you have access to their phone? Do they let you, have they turned on 360 so you know where they are? Whether you look or not, or do they have it turned on so that you can see them? Are they being transparent about things? Are they going out to have a drink with their friends and taking a photo of where they are when they arrived, calling you on their way home? Do they show back up at home when they say they're going to be there instead of 2 hours later? All these kinds of things the partner is doing in order to try to earn back trust. And the more transparent they can be, the more they can earn that trust back, at least one baby step at a time. And your job is to try to take in and internalize that consistent behavior on their part. Another thing that you could do, talk back to the voice in your head. Let them know that, yes, that happened and it's real and it hurt, but I'm in a safer space now. I'm no longer constantly in danger. It's been 6 months and I found out no new information and all the stories are more consistent now. It's been a year and my partner has been open and transparent and my partner has consistently done the things I've asked them to do, to either not be around people, to change jobs or whatever that might be in order to earn back my trust. Can I rely on that? Is that consistent? And if it's been a good amount of time, then you have to start talking back to that voice in your head and letting it know, okay, you've done your job. You've helped me really to protect myself, not to get hurt again. But there comes a time as well where I really need you to recognize that I'm safe and I'm safe in this relationship. And I'm going to work my way into telling myself and feeling emotionally safe with my partner again. Finally, the last thing I think that needs to be done, and there's probably a lot more, but I didn't want this podcast to go on for forever, and so I picked out 4 of the most important that I've seen over time. The last one is to ask for what you need. When you get triggered, can you take that to your partner? This is crucial. This is absolutely crucial for rebuilding trust and safety in a relationship. It's great if you can self-soothe. If you get triggered and you can self-soothe and you can talk yourself off the ledge and you can work yourself through that process and then it kind of goes away, that intensity lessens when you get triggered, that's great because that's certainly a part of it. You have to be able to self-soothe as well. But you also have to be able to take those triggers to your partner. And your partner has to be able to respond in an empathic and caring and soothing way. And so can you go to your partner and say, I just got triggered really bad, just a memory kind of flashed up for me, and I'm just feeling this really intense hurt right now. Can you just hold me for a minute? Or can you just talk with me for a minute? Or do you mind if we go over this one part of what happened again? I'm just having a hard time believing it or seeing it, or it's just not settling well with me. Do you mind if we just go over this one part again? I know you've told me 500 times and I get it and I don't blame you, but I need to hear that part again. Do you mind? If you come in a soft and vulnerable way, which is a huge risk in itself, I recognize that. As the offended partner is the one that got cheated on, part of your brain is saying never be vulnerable with this partner again. Never come to your partner in a vulnerable way again. Don't soften because you could be hurt again. But that's precisely the whole point. If you come in a vulnerable way and your partner can show up in their vulnerability, then that is a huge step towards healing trust. All right, let's talk about the performance-based role. So this presumably is the partner that had the affair and now feels like every behavior is graded. They feel like it's never going to be good enough. They feel like they can never quite hit the target. Maybe the target has shrunk so small that even the things that they're doing, trying to earn back that trust, is just not hitting the target. And so they can become discouraged. The first thing I would tell you is that, look, if this was a deep enough hurt in your partner, this is going to take time. This is not a matter of a few days, a few weeks, or even a few months. This may even be a few years in progress. So be patient and try to have as much empathy for your partner as possible. The second thing I would say is, especially when it first happens, is be as open and transparent about everything as you possibly can. Answer every single question your partner might have. That is really important. Your partner has the right to know. Something happened to them that shifted their entire world, and they have a right to know as much detail as they want to know. So be as upfront. What I would really suggest is to let it all out when it's discovered, and don't trickle it out over time, because those trickles can really damage the trust even further. It's going to be bad enough as it is, but treat it like a Band-Aid. Rip it off really fast. It's going to cause a big ouch in your partner, but then you can deal with the ouch. You can deal with the hurt instead of sort of trying to slowly rip it off and one little arm hair at a time is coming out. It's going to hurt a lot worse that way. So be able to just be as open and transparent as possible when it's first discovered. Now, as things go on and you feel like you fall into this performance role, I think it's also important to know that you need to be authentic. You need to be yourself. And I know you're trying to be on your best behavior and give your partner what they need, but if you can't show up and be who you are at some point in the recovery process, then you're not going to have a real authentic relationship. Another thing is, don't be afraid to make a mistake or have a rupture. Let good therapy deal with the outcomes of that. If you make a mistake, if you say, I'm going to be home at 7, and for whatever reasons you had to stay late and boss at work, and you didn't get home till 7:30, even if you're texted and your partner's still mad, and it's all cycles right back to the affair and that conversation, then great, we can deal with that. We can deal with that. Go find a trusted therapist that can help you through that, because you're going to make a mistake. It's going to happen. There's going to be ruptures in the relationship down the line. And you have to be able to, again, be yourself and not feel like you can't ever make any kind of mistake. Otherwise, it's a pseudo relationship. It's not a real relationship. It's a performance-based relationship that you're in. I want to say this too about the other partner, because I often try to love on the partner that had the affair when I see a couple, because they're hurting as well. They are absolutely hurting as well. And what I tell them is that, look, you made a really bad decision. You made a really bad choice here in your behavior and what you did, and you're going to have to deal with the ramifications of that in this relationship. But I also make sure that they understand that this affair doesn't get to define you. They can get over it. They can get through it. They can work through it. They can discover what led to the affair. They can heal whatever might have been going on for them that caused them to open that door, or to continue talking and turning towards somebody else instead of towards their partner. So there's a great deal of growth that can occur from the partner that has had the affair. It doesn't have to define who you are. It is a chapter in the story of your life, but it's not the entire book. And it doesn't wipe away or negate all the chapters before and all the good you've done and all the blessing you've been to people in your world, or all the good and the blessing you're going to be to people afterwards either. It is a painful chapter. It is a hard chapter, but it is a chapter that you can get through. And it now becomes a part of your journey. And so it doesn't get to define all of who you are. And it feels like that, I think, to the offending partner in the moment. It feels like they will never get out under this cheater role or persona that they now embody in the relationship. So the last thing I would just say is, ask your partner what he or she needs to make it better. Don't fall into trying to guess what your partner wants or needs. Sometimes you just simply have to ask. If they seem down, lean into it. Hey, you seem a little upset. Are you okay? Can I do anything for you? Do we need to talk? Can I just hold you? Sometimes no words can speak volumes. So don't be afraid to put your arms around your partner. Don't be afraid to just reach over and hold their hand if they want to. You don't want to force anything on them. But it is important, very important, to ask your partner what they need. Don't try to fall into a strategy of reading their mind, because that gets really tricky. And more often than not, you might not get it right. And so that will feel like another miss. And instead, I want you to be able to get a bullseye. I want you to be able to do the things that help your partner heal and help rebuild trust. Sometimes that just means asking, hey, I don't know what to do right now. I really want to be there for you. Can you help me? What do you need? What can I do to make this better for you? And I think you'll be surprised at the answers you might get. Thank you so much for listening. I apologize. This ran a little bit longer on this one, but I felt like these are some things that I'm really seeing in a lot of my work over the last couple of decades or so in affair recovery with couples. And these roles that they fall into can just really get them stuck and create these cycles. So I hope maybe you can see yourself, hopefully not. Maybe you've never had an affair in your relationship, and I certainly hope you don't. But nonetheless, you can probably pull something from this podcast for your relationship as well, I'm hoping. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you for listening to Trauma-Free Relationship, a podcast for the healing of attachment trauma. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or our website at traumafreerelationship.com. Be sure to look for our next episode on your favorite streaming